And now, for the purpose of presenting the commencement address for 2001, I give you Dr. Stephen A. Janger. Dr. Janger. Thank you, sir. I'll pour you some more.
Thank you, President Nazarian. What a spectacular day. I'm so excited about being here that I probably will forget what I have to say. Good morning to all of you, the class of 2001. Is anyone besides myself just a little bit excited about today? I thought you might be. A teacher was once asked, what was the shortest biography ever written? He said it was the life of Socrates in 2 sentences. Socrates gave advice and long speeches. His friends poisoned him. Now, I'm not going to compare my philosophies to those of Socrates, at least today. I will take the liberty of viewing you as my friends. Therefore, I won't be making a long speech or giving much advice. I wondered what would push your button. I guess it was that one little phrase. I'm truly honored to be here with the Rhode Island College class of 2001. It's very moving for me, personally and professionally, to be recognized with the honorary degree of Doctor of Public Service in recognition of my work in civic education and in commemoration of the 30th anniversary of the Close-Up Foundation. I'm grateful to President Nazarian and to Rhode Island College just for the honor of being here on this glorious day. I have great admiration for the broad range of academic programs of the college at both the undergraduate and graduate levels, and in particular, your very strong focus on the professional development of teachers and educational leaders. Our mission, as President Nazarian indicated at the Close-Up Foundation, is to motivate and try to inspire individuals to become more active, engaged citizens of our democracy, citizens from all walks of life, from underserved constituencies throughout the United States. As the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan civic education organization, I'm proud to say that Close-Up has very strong ties to Rhode Island. Nearly 8,500 Rhode Island students and teachers have joined the more than 550,000 from across this nation and around the world who've participated in our Close-Up Washington Government Studies program. Thousands of other Rhode Islanders have taken part in a statewide civic education initiative known as Insight. In all, a very large percentage of those participants have gone on to be public service leaders in this state and throughout the country. Are there any Close-Up alums here in the audience at all? I see a couple hands. I'm delighted. I'd like to know where you're from and when you came on the program. I first came to Rhode Island in 1973 when we introduced Close-Up to Rhode Island. And Rhode Island has pioneered a number of program innovations and developments of which we're very proud. For example, in 1974, the very first year that Rhode Island participated in the Close-Up program, 2 young ladies came down from the Rhode Island School for the Deaf. We'd had no experience with young students who were hearing impaired. Those 2 young ladies literally knocked us off our socks. I mean, they were just absolutely spectacular. And what they did is they gave us the courage to go ahead and bring in schools for the deaf from all over the United States into this program. 16,000 hearing impaired students, I'm pleased to say, have participated in this program alone since those 2 young ladies from the Rhode Island School for the Deaf came on the program. It was then, in 1973, when I first visited Rhode Island, that I fell in love with this beautiful state and its wonderful leaders. Now, we've all heard the expression that democracy is not a spectator sport, that we're all players. Sometimes it can really be a cliche, it can be trite, but it's still very true. It was this belief that led me to establish Close-Up 3 decades ago during an era of conflict, confusion, and intense youth activism, largely fueled by this country's involvement in Vietnam. At that time in our nation's history, when we were also interested in expanding rights for minorities and more rights for women, it also gave rise to the movement to expand voting rights for young people by lowering the voting age. Thus, the 26th Amendment, which secured voting rights for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, was passed. Like close-up, the 26th Amendment turns 30 this year. The 26th Amendment was ratified faster than any other amendment to the Constitution. A short 100 days. I believed, many believed, my friends believed, hopefully that young people would add a measure of energy and idealism to the electoral process. Political debates and arguments in favor of lowering the voting age were distilled into several key points. Two of the key issues were that 18-year-olds were subject to the draft, were treated like adults in most other respects, therefore, they should have the right to vote. Additionally, many believe that granting younger citizens the right to vote would redirect the energy and some of the anger of America's young people into electoral politics, and in the process, revitalize the political culture. And so, the amendment was enacted, and millions upon millions of young people were empowered to be part of the process, and the franchise that just generations before had been expanded to include African Americans and women was now thought to be complete. I wish I could tell you that the high expectations associated with the adoption of the 26th Amendment have been realized. But the fact is today that the majority of American young people are unlikely to exercise the most basic tool of political participation, the right to vote. Overall, youth voting has declined significantly since that very first election after the amendment was passed, the 1972 election, when almost 50% of 18 to 25-year-olds cast a ballot. In the most recent election of 2000, it's estimated that far fewer than 30% of that same age group went to the polls. Now, I could spend a lot of time this morning talking about low voter turnout and political apathy because it's what I do. But it's really not the day for it. You had your share of it. We all had our share of it in this past election. We realized that for the first time ever after Florida, irrespective of political party or politics in general, that every vote does count. And in this great country where you can make a difference, you should make a difference. It's really the only way to change things, if you want to change things. And the blessing of our system, with all of its warts, and there are problems, is that it does take input. But you have to get involved to make input. Politics is a sport for players, not spectators. Now, my favorite story about the recent election is very personal, not super sophisticated. It's a spin from the second grade from my very own granddaughter, Haley, who's now 8 and was 7 when the election took place. In her second grade class, they were discussing the election and writing a paragraph or two about it. Here's what she wrote. Actually, part of the problem is that some guy named Chad is messing up the whole works. I heard something about him going around and fooling with the voting machines, and now they're all clogged up, and everyone's all mad, especially lots of grandmas and grandpas, because they all have to carry signs. I bet Chad's feeling pretty bad, but maybe not too sad because I heard he's pregnant. My absolute favorite description of the longest election in our history. And on this day of days, to the faculty, my warmest congratulations for your constancy of purpose, for your achievement in turning out this class of 2001, whose collective years of productivity, if we just think about it for a few moments, will touch and influence so many in this great country. From my perspective, yours is the most noble profession of all. And once again, you've responded to continue to fill the reservoir of our cultural and intellectual strength. You have our deepest gratitude and admiration. And to the class of 2001, well, you're the stars today. You're an inspiration to all of us. Every class like you in this country is an inspiration. What you've achieved today is a stepping stone, a huge stepping stone, an earned ticket to opportunity. It doesn't mean that society will be beating on your door with blank checks. It does mean that a lot of new and some very fascinating directions are going to be open to you. Somewhere in this process, as you seek out your future, it's really important that you're honest with yourself about what you're really interested in and what really motivates you, what you enjoy, what gets your motor running, what you want to do, not what you believe your parents, your family, your teachers, or society want or think that you should do. I wish I could say to each and every one of you that every one of you will achieve great things in whatever you select to do. I know I'm not the first to tell you that you may not, but you don't have to achieve greatness to be happy and be successful. Most of us hit a plateau of happiness, success, and measurable productivity without ever flirting with greatness. As you move away from this glorious day and you step into the first day of the rest of your lives, you're probably wondering about that strange little feeling in your stomach. Is it excitement? Too much partying last night? Too much anticipation about tonight? Or is it just a tad of fear of the future? Fear of the unknown is pretty normal. Fear of failure with the expectations you're creating because of today is pretty normal also. And at the risk of creating a frown or two from your parents, I believe it's not the ultimate sin to not know exactly what you want to do. A few decades ago, as the oldest grandson and first college graduate from 4 Jewish immigrant grandparents who had somehow or another ended up in Oklahoma City at the turn of the last century, I didn't have a clue as to what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to be an attorney, didn't want to be a doctor, didn't want to go into my dad's business. I thought I wanted to teach or work with young people in some way. I thought also that it would be hard to explain to my family, particularly my grandfathers, who had seen the hard reality of life. But they got it. They got the message, and they said, go do it. Go for it. That's what this country is all about. That's why we came to this country. Now, maybe some of you aren't exactly certain what you want to do. What I'm trying to say is you'll find the right path. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. The only thing you really need to do is work at it. This country, for the most part, has always passionately embraced and rewarded effort, initiative, perseverance, and integrity. It will always embrace those characteristics. I hope that some of you will test out the public service arena of this country's great nonprofit sector. America is first, in case you didn't know it, first among nations in the world with its unique nonprofit sector. These public service opportunities, among which I would include education and government service, exist coast to coast. They can be vibrant and life-fulfilling. Take a look at some of them. So how do we leap with confidence from this day where you're sitting today and get on with your lives? I need some help to do that. I'm reminded of the wonderful ambiguity of Abraham Lincoln's statement in his 1865 inaugural address regarding the progress of the Civil War, when Lincoln wrote and said, with high hopes for the future, no prediction in regard to it is ventured. Well, I think we can do much better than that. I think we can predict your future. I'm a great admirer of Abraham Lincoln, but that's a little bit too neutral. You can predict your future. Something will inspire you. Something will launch you. Something will motivate you. I could get personal and tell you about the most motivating, memorable experience of my own life. I was a junior in high school, younger than you, in Oklahoma City. We were sent down to the auditorium to listen to a junior senator by the name of Hubert Humphrey, who'd come in from Oklahoma City just to talk to a group of students. I listened. I thought the man was talking to me. He was actually talking to 500 of us. But I really thought he was talking to me, and what he did was talk about the country. He talked about the country's greatness. He talked about the fact that the very best for me was yet to come. He said that to every student in that room. And I believed him, that the very best was yet to come. And more than 25 years later, when Close Up had started, I listened to him speak to thousands of close-up students and give the same message, that for all of you sitting right here, the very best is yet to come. And he added one thing: don't let anybody tell you that a life fulfilled is dependent upon turning the clock back to the good old days. He says, because I'm a product of the good old days, and some of them weren't so good. There was more disease. There was more bigotry. There was more discrimination. There was less knowledge, less opportunity, less communication. So he said, start from where you are today and tell yourself, for me, the very best is yet to come, because I believe for you that the very best is yet to come. Winston Churchill once said, in speaking to a group of young graduates, you'll make all kinds of mistakes over and over again. But as long as you are generous and true and fierce in your determination, you cannot hurt the world or even seriously distress her. She was made to be wooed and won by youth. It's all part of the very best is yet to come. Now, all you all have to do is go out there and achieve it. Congratulations to each and every one of you.
Thank you, Dr. Janger, for sharing those inspired and inspiring thoughts with us today. And we are all honored that you are able to join us and to participate in our celebration.